Thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Israel expanding its offensive against Hamas in Gaza to clear out large areas of terrorists and to strengthen its security zone. Here at home, President Donald Trump set to impose a wide range of tariffs today in hopes of bringing more jobs back to America. But some economists worry the president's move will also mean higher prices. A battle over whether states can withhold taxpayer funding from abortion providers like Planned Parenthood. That case is being heard today by the United States Supreme Court. And our visit to Horsepower Ranch to meet the Johnson family. They're masters of horsepower, both on four legs and four wheels. All those stories and more right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
And we begin this Wednesday in the Middle East, where Israel is expanding its military operation in the Gaza Strip. Defense Minister Ariel Katz saying in a statement the goal of the offensive in the Palestinian territory is to, quote, crush and clean the area of terrorists and to siege large areas that will be added to the security zones of the State of Israel. The expanded assaults come after Israel has been hitting Hamas with heavy strikes in the last few weeks. The defense minister called on Gaza residents to expel Hamas and return all hostages. He says it is the only way to end the war. Our Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem with more. So, Chris, what more can you tell us about this expanded offensive against Hamas? How significant is this?
Well, Ephraim, it is significant. What it does is marks a new phase in Israel's military campaign that began a few weeks ago. And now Prime Minister Netanyahu is saying any negotiations for the hostages is going to be held under fire. They're targeting deeper in Hamas infrastructure down in Rafah, right on the Egyptian-Gazan border, including underground tunnels, command centers, and then weapon stockpiles. The reason it's significant, Ephraim, it really signals Israel is shifting from sort of isolated strikes to a broader and a more sustained military operation. And this is all designed to dismantle Hamas's ability to operate in the Gaza. And so the scale and the intensity suggests that the offensive could take weeks and maybe months and to hopefully reshape the situation on the ground.
How will these attacks on Hamas affect the hostage negotiations?
Well, it remains to be seen. As I said, Prime Minister Netanyahu made the decision a few weeks ago that they would negotiate under fire and keep the pressure on Hamas. And these intensified strikes, and actually a new division, apparently the 36, has gone into Gaza as well, puts more pressure on Hamas. But also it risks complicating the negotiations on the one hand. The military escalation, it's designed to weaken Hamas's leverage. On the other hand, it could cause delays or breakdown in the talks to the instability there in the Gaza Strip and Hamas's desire to respond. And so right now the mediators, Egypt and Qatar, they're saying they're urging restraint to keep the negotiation alive, but the situation certainly remains fluid. We do know right now that Israel is proposing about a 40-day ceasefire in exchange for 11 alive hostages. Right now, we understand 59 still remain inside Gaza. 24 of those, we believe, are still alive.
Now, Israel launched a strike against Hezbollah in Beirut. What happened there?
Well, Gideon Sar, Israel's foreign minister, made a statement about that yesterday. It was a Hezbollah leader that they targeted right there in Beirut, who they believe was directing Hamas terrorists and assisting them in an attempt to carry out a possible major imminent attack against Israeli civilians. And because of that, he said it posed a real and imminent threat. He called it a ticking time bomb, and so they had to eliminate the threat. The IDF came out with a statement and said, terrorist Hassan Ali Mahmoud Badir, he was a terrorist in Hezbollah Unit 3900 and part of the Iranian Quds Force as well. They struck him in a Hezbollah stronghold in Beirut. It was apparently a very significant and imminent terror attack against Israeli civilians, reportedly an attack on Cyprus. It also marked the second strike in several days in Beirut itself, and it really signaled a willingness to operate deeper inside Lebanese territory to eliminate any future threats by Hezbollah.
The Trump administration has been sending warnings to Iran over its nuclear program. How is Iran responding?
Well, Iran is rejecting the U.S. pressure and the offer of negotiations. In the meantime, it continues to expand its nuclear capabilities. Tehran has been insisting its program is peaceful, but it really is looking to try to get a nuclear weapon right now. So Iran is stepping up its rhetoric, military drills, sending a defiant message that it won't be coerced. However, some believe there are back-channel diplomacy contacts going on through Europe. But right now, we're coming to the end of the two-month deadline that President Trump had set when he said negotiations that could come in a few weeks. And then also reports say that Iran, in the meantime, is closer to military-grade material. So right now, it seems like these boundaries of negotiations that people talk about could be closing. In the meantime, the U.S. is sending more assets to the region, more THAAD anti-missile systems. So right now we see both U.S. and Iran preparing for could be a momentous confrontation.
Chris, we've got a story coming up in a moment on President Trump's tariff actions. What is Israel doing with tariffs in the United States?
Well, just yesterday, Ephraim, the Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Minister of Finance, and the Ministry of the Economy, they put out a statement, and they're going to eliminate all tariffs of imports from the U.S. And basically, this is a free trade agreement with the U.S. And as you said, it comes one day ahead of President Trump's Liberation Day today.
All right, our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief, Chris Mitchell, thank you so much for your insights. We look forward to seeing you in the days ahead this week. Here at home, as we just discussed, President Donald Trump is set to announce sweeping tariffs on goods coming into the United States. He believes they will force companies to build more in America and help bring manufacturing jobs back, along with more tax revenue to the government. But some economists worry the tariffs will mean higher prices. Tara Mershner has this story.
The president claims these measures will correct trade imbalances, revitalize domestic manufacturing, and eventually bring down prices for Americans. Critics warn of higher consumer costs and potential global retaliation. President Trump is using the power of the U.S. economy to negotiate with America's trade partners.
April 2nd, 2025 will go down as one of the most important days in modern American history.
Calling it Liberation Day, the president is promising to break U.S. reliance on foreign products. He says it will level the playing field with nations that impose tariffs on U.S. goods.
They're reciprocal, so whatever they charge us, we charge them.
You should trust what this president did for you in his first term. He effectively utilized tariffs while driving down inflation.
The administration has not released details on the tariffs and what countries will be most affected, but the president reportedly expected to impose a 20% charge on most imported goods. Not all analysts believe the tariffs will have a major impact on the economy, but some consumers fear they'll see rising prices.
Canned goods might go up because of tin, like all these prices, and they're just going to be rolled right into the consumer's pocketbook.
There's also concern tariffs could disrupt supply chains.
The current supply chains, a lot of those were built out over the course of 10, 20, 30 years. And now if you turn trade policy on its head, you can't just wave a magic wand and change those supply chains.
In Congress, there's pushback on both sides of the aisle. New Jersey Democratic Senator Cory Booker holding the Senate floor with a record 25-hour marathon speech to highlight Democrats' objections to Trump's sweeping actions, including the tariffs.
Are you better off than you were 72 days ago under this president's leadership on the verge of his so-called Liberation Day that's going to drive prices up even more?
Maine Republican Susan Collins told CBN News she's worried about the effect on industry in her state.
It's going to be in trouble if there's a tariff of 25% put on pulp.
On Wall Street, some investors are nervous about the impact on the U.S. economy. Goldman Sachs has raised the probability of a recession from 20% to 35%. The European Union and Canada have signaled their intention to respond with countermeasures.
We have the largest single market in the world. We have the strength to negotiate.
As I made clear to President Trump in our call last week, I will reject all attempts to weaken Canada, all attempts to wear us down, to break us down, so that America can own us. That will never, ever happen.
The White House indicates that the president remains open to negotiations.
president is always open to taking calls.
The president acknowledges Americans could feel some short-term pain. The big question is how much and for how long. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Coming up, a battle in South Carolina to prevent the flow of taxpayer dollars to Planned Parenthood. We're going to bring you the story when we come back. You are watching CBN NewsWatch. Today, the United States Supreme Court hears arguments on whether states can withhold Medicaid funds from abortion providers like Planned Parenthood. South Carolina has tried to do this since 2017. Federal courts have repeatedly blocked the effort. Charlene Aaron is on the story.
The case comes as Planned Parenthood is in crisis, with clinics closing and allegations of malpractice. The outcome of this case could open doors to allowing states to defund the nation's largest abortion provider.
According to its own reporting, Planned Parenthood performs between 1/3 and 2/3 of all abortions in the United States annually, while its provision of other medical services continues to decline.
Alliance Defending Freedom is representing South Carolina's Director of Health and Human Services in the case, which will be argued by Senior Counsel John Bursch.
South Carolina taxpayers, their dollars are being used to fund an organization which is lobbying against the thing that they want, as enacted by their elected representatives. It's kind of an absurd situation and just demonstrates why South Carolina needs to have the flexibility Congress meant to give it.
The state's intent goes back to 2017, when Governor Henry McMaster ordered the Health and Human Services Department to divert Medicaid funds from Planned Parenthood to women's clinics that don't perform abortions. Planned Parenthood and one of its patients responded by suing the HHS director. A federal district court ruled against the state, restoring the annual $2 billion funding, and a U.S. appeals court later upheld the order. A move South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson says violates the state's rights.
South Carolina has laws on the books that prohibit any state-appropriated funds or funds passing through the state of South Carolina to go to abortion service providers. This has been on the books for years, and of course, Governor McMaster, about 6 or 7 years ago, wrote an executive order that basically kept in line with that statutory provision, which basically prohibited any of the Medicaid funding coming to the states from the federal government to be then directed to groups like Planned Parenthood.
Allison Centofanti of Americans United for Life says it's an issue of states' rights.
So there are other states that have sought to do this, like Texas, eliminating Planned Parenthood as a Medicaid provider. South Carolina is doing it now. And so we're all looking at the Supreme Court saying, hey, there's a circuit split here, 5-2 of whether this is constitutional. We're looking at the Supreme Court saying, give us clear guidance, because when Congress passed the Medicaid program, they didn't think that individuals would be able to sue the state in a civil right into a federal lawsuit saying, hey, you don't have the provider that I like.
A fight Wilson admits won't be easy.
The left, the people who are pro-abortion, they're going to be bringing every single lawsuit on every single conceivable outside-the-box legal theory, crazy legal theory that they can think of. They're going to try to bring it. They're going to try to throw it at us. That is why getting cases like this decided at the U.S. Supreme Court, which allows states to control themselves, is so important for the other 49 states and who want to govern themselves differently than South Carolina.
The High Court agreed to the state's third request and will decide whether the Medicaid Act gives patients the right to choose their health care provider, or that the state has the right to decide how to spend its funds. Bursch is hopeful as the justices hear oral arguments on April 2nd.
South Carolinians and all Americans deserve better than to see their tax dollars funneled to Planned Parenthood's radical priorities. We look forward to a ruling that restores states' freedom to protect life and prioritize genuine health care.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Still ahead, a lighter story, jumping in the saddle here at home with a look at the wonderful animals that make cowboys possible, horses, and the people who care for them. We're going to have that story for you right after this. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. There is no cowboy or cowgirl without a horse. So we thought we'd take a closer look at these beautiful and intuitive animals and the people who care for them. We head now to Horsepower Ranch to meet the Johnson family, masters of horsepower on 4 wheels and 4 legs.
As you can see
yourself a cowgirl?
I would. I would. I really would.
When did it start for you?
Probably in my early 20s. I had a love for horses. I acquired my very first horse in my 20s, and it just stayed with me. I just love the freedom that horses represent.
And we sit here at Horsepower Ranch.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Horsepower Ranch is our family ranch. I have a 19-year-old and a 12-year-old, and the 12-year-old, her name is Anna. She helps me here on the ranch with all the feeding and ensuring that the animals are really taken care of every day.
What can you tell me about the connection between cowboy, horse, and African American people? What's the tie?
The culture in Texas when it comes to ranching and this life of this equestrian life is so deep. You know, it goes all the way back to Bill Pickett. And so it's a wonderful thing. It's a lifestyle. And any Saturday or Sunday afternoon, you can find you a rodeo to go to in this Houston metro area.
So when you go to the rodeo, I imagine because of what you do, you're looking at things differently. How are you looking?
Well, I'm looking at the horses. I'm looking at the quality of the horses. I'm looking at how, you know, it's a big production. So people are coming in with their trucks and their trailers, their custom saddles, their custom boots, all of their gear. And so it's as if it's a pageant. Some say that, you know, it's a dying craft when it comes to, you know, the black cowboy. But in Texas, it is alive and well.
Would you say that the work you and your husband do with horses is a ministry in any way?
It is. That's one thing that we pride ourselves in doing, is not only taking care of these animals, but if we sell an animal or sell a horse, we make sure that it's good and docile.
In addition to horses, you guys are horsepower. 4 wheels or 4 legs,
That's right. That's correct.
So tell me about the 4 wheels.
4 wheels. My husband owns City Classic Cars and Restorations by Sabra, and we are a classic car restoration company here in the Metro Houston area. And so we pride ourselves in building some of the best classic cars, not only in the country, but in the world. It's the largest classic car company that's owned by an African American in the entire world.
Wow.
There are multiple locations here in Houston.
What does that say to young people, especially young African Americans coming up to see what you guys have achieved, especially those watching who may not have attained this, have never seen something like this before? What does that say to them?
It's as simple as this. Write the vision and make it plain. You know, your dreams can come true if you just sketch it out and work your plan. God has a vision for you. You just have to have enough belief in yourself and belief in God that He will do it just for you.
And you had that?
I had it. And so does my husband. He believes that and he lives by that.
Where'd that come from for you guys?
It came from our upbringing. We're Baptists, and just believing that God will move in your life. That faith comes from, I mean, we both grew up in the same church. We both had the same Sunday school teacher. And that was drilled in us not only on Sundays, but at home as well. We had strong parents who believed in teaching us that God will do something special just for you.
I imagine getting to where you guys are has not been easy. What do you recall about the struggle?
You have to keep working, no matter what. One of the key things that we believe is, if there is a struggle, there is a blessing. So just keep pushing forward. It's okay if it's hard, but just keep working towards it. And there is a blessing on the other side.
What do you say to young Black boys and girls about that, in light of the fact that our ancestors endured racism? We have endured racism. Some people would like to say it doesn't exist today. What do you say to those young people?
You know, we can't educate everybody or change anybody's mind, but we can surely be confident in who we are. Since we're the only people here that look like us, we're going to be the best representatives. We're going to, whatever your thought is, we're going to be the best representatives of African Americans. We're going to represent African American greatness.
Is that a burden or a blessing?
It's a blessing. It's an honor.
The Johnson family are also philanthropists. They help to fund missions and to work to empower others. Be sure to join us for an all-new episode of Studio 5 this evening. We're sitting down with Dallas Jenkins, the creator of the popular series The Chosen. He's talking about the new season. Plus, we've got a look at the film Audrey's Children. And we're going to take you to Texas to talk to a family who participates in the famous Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo. You can get that all-new episode of Studio 5 on the CBN News Channel beginning at 8 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, or you can find it on YouTube. We're coming right back with an encouraging word for your Wednesday. Stay with us.
Download the CBN News app. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Watch CBN News Channel Live. CBN News, because truth matters. Get the CBN News app today.
Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is rest. Resist the urge to respond to every word spoken against you. It is best to rest and give room for God to respond. After all, the battle is never really yours. It belongs to the Lord. You need only to suit up in the armor of God, and it will sustain you, and then allow you to rest in the peace of God as He fights the battle. And here's the good news. If He's fighting your battle, you win. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online, cbnnews.com. Take a moment and let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. We'll see you back here same time tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.